Welcome back to Mr. Leek's free science tutorials. In this video, we are going to talk about or answer the question, how is genetic material stored in an organism, and explain the role of each individual part from largest to smallest. Now really, what they're talking about in this question is a diagram that looks a bit like this. And it talks about how is genetic material stored. So it's where is that genetic material in the organism itself. And it's talking about it's found in the cell. And the cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. All right, so we've gone through in previous videos about what a cell is, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. The DNA, or the genetic information, is then found in the nucleus. And this is a structure that contains genetic material and controls the activities of the cell. In a prokaryotic cell, there isn't a nucleus, and the DNA material is kind of just floating around within the cell itself. The largest part, then, of the actual DNA material itself is your chromosome. And what it is, it's a thread-like structure of coiled DNA found in the nucleus of a eukaryotic cell, and obviously in a prokaryotic cell, it's found floating around. And what people normally think of, they normally think of it like your X and your Y shapes. Right, but the vast majority of the time, what you'll actually find is chromosomes are invisible strands that are within there. It's only when they start to divide that they become the characteristic X and Y shape. When you drill down into chromosomes further, you then get your DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. And that is a polymer, which basically means it's a long strand, made up of two strands forming a double helix. And it's a double helix that don't go round together. It's like a spring that goes one direction, and then the other spring goes in the opposite direction. That is then your DNA. If you drill down again further into the DNA, what you'll do is you see small little sections that are then called genes. Right? These genes are then sections of DNA that code for a specific protein or characteristic. So one of the genes in your DNA might make brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes. It might make the shape of your nose, the shape of your ear. All right? So then that is what the genes then do. Going back to the question, how is genetic material stored in an organism, and explain the role of each individual part from largest to smallest. So basically, the genetic material is stored in the gene. It's then stored in DNA, it's stored in the chromosome, it's stored in the nucleus, and then it's found in the cell. So, to answer that question, right, and you've got to be key part to this, how is genetic material stored in an organism, and explain the role of each individual part from largest to smallest. So, largest to smallest. So, what to write is genetic material is stored in the cell. The cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. Within that cell is a nucleus. The nucleus is a structure that contains genetic material and controls the activity of the cell. Within the nucleus, we have chromosomes. Those chromosomes are thread-like structures of coiled DNA found in the nucleus of eukaryotic cells. If you then drill down into that further, the chromosome is then made up of DNA, which is a polymer made up of two strands forming a double helix. And finally, the genetic material is stored as genes, which are very, very small sections of DNA that code for a specific protein or characteristic. What I've then done is I've answered the question, how is the genetic material stored in an organism, and explain the role of each individual part from largest to smallest. Cell, its definition. Nucleus, what it is. Chromosome, what it is. DNA, what it is. Gene, what it is. Thank you for listening.